Hey guys, I just want to talk to you about your charcoal pencils. You of course can sharpen them with a regular pencil sharpener, but they're actually best sharpened, designed to be sharpened actually, with a X-Acto knife or a knife. You obviously, if you're going to do this, be very careful. That's sharp, that's not sharp. And you take your hand on the handle, nowhere, and you always cut away from yourself, but you would cut away. Blade's a little loose on this. The blade's a tiny bit loose, but you cut away until you expose some of the charcoal. This is the traditional way of using a charcoal pencil. You cut away until you expose the charcoal. It doesn't have to be a lot, but it's got to be some. Carefully. This is a regular traditional way of using these. You have to be careful at the end not to cut off your pencil. The charcoal. And then, if you bought a kit, you get one of these things here in it. It's a sandpaper block, and it's meant to be peeled off a bit at a time. Over time, you can peel it off as it gets full of charcoal dust. It's so easy to call it a lead because that's what the lead of a pencil is, but it's charcoal. And then you use an angle, if you can see that. You can see I'm doing it at an angle, and I'm sharpening it. I'm flipping it over, and it gives you a sharp, clean edge you can draw with. The reason why this is preferable throughout a long period of time is because then if it gets a little dull as you're working, you just go rub it on there, and you have yourself a sharp edge again, instead of having a sharp. Also, charcoal pencils tend to be, the charcoal is softer than like the graphite in a pencil or a lead back in the day, and so they snap off easier in your sharpener. So the other reason why this is preferable is to give you, save your pencil and have it last a little longer so it doesn't keep breaking. So it's up to you. Obviously, can't make you do that, and if you feel uncomfortable in any way, be safe, because I don't want you to hurt yourselves, so it's not required at all. At the beginning of all this, I want you just to get your pencil and to try out some tones and see how this works. Okay? You're like, I've used a pencil before, I know, but nonetheless, I want you to, it's not going to be exactly the same, and it's going to take a little practice to get used to how the tones are. And then I want you to try just roughly to figure out, like, you have your white of your paper, okay, then you have to do 10 of these. That's a lot of them, and they have to be in even steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You're going to have to do 10. When you go to do it, you're going to have to lay it out nicely on paper so it's even with ruler. And I'll show you how I did that and darken up the lines. But this is just a test page, right? Test page. That's your test page. You want to do a couple of these if you need to. The white's pretty easy to do. We'll call that number 1. And number 10 is the black. As black as you can get. That's pretty easy to do. You'd be surprised you can get really dark black with this. The paper has fibers in it. Paper is made of like plant fiber. And it can only take so much medium, no matter what it is, before it's loaded up. So that's going to be like your black. Those two are easy. You have to do these 8 in between, and those are going to be hard. You're going to want to try to work. I think the best thing to do first is to try to figure out what would be dead in the middle of them. This is actually a little dark. And while you're doing this, you're going to want to try to get used to the pencil and how you can shade with it and get even tones. You're going to notice, like, if you do like this line work, it's going to get darker quicker, and also it's hard to maybe not get a bunch of white spaces in between. So you're going to have to try to just play with that and see how you can get even tones and and pressure to really build up a continuous tone. It takes some practice. It seems like, oh, this is easy as can be, but it's actually not. So you're going to want to have that 10 value scale up on the computer screen or print it off if you need to, and then find these. So I recommend first trying to find the middle gray tone. I've done this quite a bit, but it's still not perfect. And then if you need to, when you're doing it, when you're actually doing your final, which I'll show you how to do, you can erase a bit with your kneaded eraser. It's going to get full of charcoal, and that's why we have these kneaded erasers, because you just knead the dust into it as it gets full. Okay, and it just gets darker and darker over time as you use it. So that's not actually quite a middle gray. It's a little too dark actually, but it's getting close. But you're going to want to work pretty evenly in one direction, maybe two directions. I want you to do most of it through the mark making, not through what I just did, blending. And if you need to fix your final with the eraser, you can actually kind of dab it off a little bit. I don't want you to do a bunch of this work yet, because that kind of makes drawings, people will say, it can make them look a little amateurish if you just finish it by smearing. It's not amateur to smear, it's more like you don't want your entire drawing to be all smeared. When we get into this more and more, you'll use the tortillons and blending steps in your fingers to blend a little bit and get tones down, and then you'll kind of come back in and add the line work and some pencil line work on top. So it seems, oh, that's the same, but it's not quite the same. So I want you to get really used to, at first, just how you use your pencil, and that's the purpose of this as well. So you got like a middle gray right there. It's a tiny bit dark, but yeah, that's the middle one. It's a little bit on the dark side, but then you go from there and you build up and say, okay, this one needs to be a little lighter. I've just done it a few times, more than a few, so I know. And then you're going to go a step up from there, and you're going to keep testing out steps on your page. And what do we mean by even steps is so that the 8 tones in between, just like the value scale I showed you, I have there on the screen for you and I showed you, have an even jump in tone. This is a little too dark already, actually, probably to be even, but we'll try it out. This is our tester, so we don't know. And we're going to get up here and do something that's really dark and work our way back maybe. Almost black, but not black. And the whole time you're working, you're going to want to reference that illustration, that scale. You're going to want to stay in touch with it and look at it, because it's going to help you as a visual reference. So that's kind of getting somewhat close. It actually needs to be even darker. You can see it in comparison to black. It's not quite as black. And then we're going to need to figure out one in between these. So I think that one should have been there. So I'll go 10. This will be 9. I think this is actually 8 for there. And this might be 7. And then I have to do one that's, this one will be a tiny bit darker for 7. And work it through. And that means I need to do a new middle gray. So I figure out middle gray color. I'm pushing way too hard. It's got to be really light touch for that middle gray. That's almost there, but it's really quickly getting too dark. And so you're going to find, surprisingly, that it's more challenging than you thought to get that middle gray and the lighter tones, because you barely have to touch. Almost just barely touch fully. It takes not nearly as much pressure as you would think to get something close to middle gray. That's pretty close. If I squint my eyes and look at the jumping, I'm saying, yeah, that's pretty good. This is not enough of a jump, so I'm going to go, okay, That could be a little darker. Squint my eyes and go, okay, it's coming on. Yeah, 7. This is 6. And then I'm going to have to go even lighter, even lighter. So I'm going to build those up, test them, and get them pretty accurate. To 10 of them, right? 6. I'm going to do 5. I can squint my eyes. It's barely there, and this one actually becomes harder because you actually quickly get too dark of a mark on your pencil, with your pencil, so you have to be really light. That's about right, and then I'm going to go 4 is even lighter. Oh man, see, this is where you're like, I might have tried to get too light. I might have to make these darker to get the 10 tones, because I still have 3 more to go. 4, 3, no, see, I'm getting, these need to be darkened up a little bit up here. There's not enough of a difference, so when I'm trying to do 10 of them, 2 more, there's barely any room because I'm getting so light. So this one's probably more like number 3, and that'd be 1 lighter before this, and 1 is white paper. That means that this would probably be more like 4, and that's 5. And then I need to create a 6, which is in between these two, which they're too close to each other. So these have got to get a little darker up here. So you get the idea, working through the test page and kind of identifying the tones as much as you can. I'm showing you. After you do that for a little while and get something, you're going to want them clearly as you want, all 10 of them. Well, 8. 1 and 10 is black and white, so that's pretty easy. You're going to want to lay out your page nicely. And so you're going to need a ruler. And you're going to measure, to lay out a page, you measure from the edge of the page. This is 1 inch down in multiple spots. So I went all the way to the edge, made a mark, inch, made a mark, inch. And then, let me get a better pencil here. And I did the same thing, and I got another inch over. So I went inch, inch, and I got multiple marks that were 1 inch down, and then multiple marks that were 2 inches down. And then I take and draw a line all the way across the page. Okay. You don't have to draw it that dark all the way across, but you want a dark line. You can draw it lightly up to the edge if you want, because you're not going to want, you can keep it like that, but it's up to you. You can erase it if that makes any sense so far. I can post a little thing about laying out pages. And you're going to end up with these 2 lines that are parallel to the edge of the page and 1 inch apart. Seems simple enough, but some of you probably haven't done it, and it's surprising how much random things, clean drawing things actually take a little time and thought, because we want to make these squares. Square means this line is parallel to that, and that line is parallel to that. There's a 90-degree angle that's square to the edge of the page. Once you're on these lines, then you're going to want to take the ruler and mark the dots all at once. Don't go 1 inch and then move it 1 inch because it'll get off over time. Make sure it's lined up with this starting inch on that first line that you do across, and then mark them all. 1, 2, 3, up to 11, because there's 10 boxes. And on the other side, you do the exact same thing on the other side. And then you can take and draw your lines darkly. You could, I just do this in, don't do this with charcoal. Do this in regular pencil, because otherwise the charcoal will smear too much. And this is just the layout. So you're going to get all 10 of them. And this is what you're going to use. This is what you're going to use to put your 10 tones on. So you can label them if you want. I just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That one's white, so just don't touch it. That one down there is white. And this one's going to be black. So once I get those lines drawn, I can start doing that. I can use the information I got from that test page to do this. So, sorry there's some background noise here. My son is playing at home. No one's able to go to school or anything. He's with my wife, but he's hanging out. And that's life right now. So we have 10 of these. And we have white, which is clear. And number over here is number 10 is black. I'm going to really be careful when I'm doing this. I take my pencil, make sure it's sharp. My methodology. This thing will get full of charcoal after a while. You just tap it off into the garbage can. You'll notice with charcoal pretty quickly that it wants to go all over the place and travel around, so you'll have to be careful of that. If necessary, which a lot of people like to do, you can use this stuff called fixative for your charcoal drawings to keep them from getting all messed up. It's a spray. I'll show you some of it right now. It comes in different size cans. Looks like this usually. There's other names for it. You want to probably get the low odor one. It keeps them from smudging. This is a workable one. You're going to use it outside. It's like spray paint. Do not use it inside, and you do not want to smell it. So you're going to spray it over that if you want to. If you don't want to deal with that, and it's up to you. You don't have to because you're taking pictures of your drawings, so they'll be fine. So you want to keep them sharp, and then you're going to really do this really carefully and build up your tones in here. I'm at 17 minutes already in this video, so I don't want to take forever. But I want doing this exact thing because we need to go over the sphere too. But I want to show you how careful you need to be. You need to try to go only one direction. If you try to scribble like this and do it with the black, it'll be fine. It would cover up. But once you try to scribble with the other ones, it won't be an even tone. It'll be going all over the place. You won't be able to keep it even. So you're going to really want to actually work cleanly and really try to keep your pencil. If you overlap a little bit, you'll notice that you're going to have to maybe have the edges go a little bit sideways. But wherever you overlap, you'll notice that it's going to actually create darker spots. So it's not necessarily always easy to get this right. It seems like, oh yeah, whatever. But you really got to take some time to do this correctly. Especially when you're in the middle gray, it's going to be harder because you're going to have to really barely, and the lighter ones, it's going to take you more because you're really going to have to try to be really light with this. Keep it a light line. It'll be challenging. If you go over, you can go both directions, that's fine, but I'm trying to tell you, you want to be like cross-hatching almost, but you're just covering it with tone. That's getting too dark already. So this is part of the issue, is when you're doing it, you're going to be like, okay, I'll just cover it up and make it even, but then you end up with too dark of a tone, right? So this is why you have to be careful and actually use your reference, your practice, and also the screen. If you get it a little too dark, what you're going to do is go in there and you can erase with your kneaded eraser normally. Let me show you what I mean. You can just erase by rubbing it like that, right? That's fine. But I found that if you want to just take a little bit off, you actually can dab it on there and it'll pull a little bit off. What do I mean? Watch. I just made that clean right there by kneading it. Okay, so it's the light grayish color, and if I dab it, it pulls it off right there. See? It pulls it off. And that takes off a little bit at a time. That way, if you got something really too dark, like my middle gray just did, I can pull it back off a little bit. And that will make it a lot easier than scrapping the whole thing and starting over, for sure. And easier than trying to go and take it all the way down and put it back on over and over again. So that's a little bit useful. That's very useful. So that's close to middle gray. And then I'm going to work my way through. If you remember, I had all these tones. The 2 and 1 is that's one that's going to be pretty hard, because you just basically wispily, barely putting it over, and you'll find, like, I'm using a medium pencil. If you use the really soft ones, this is the soft one, you can get really dark really quickly. So you really have to almost hover your hand in the air over it. That's why you kind of have different drawing positions. And for those ones, you may actually just find it easier to do a tiny mark and then blend it. You're going to have to do a little bit of marking, but for the very number 2 one, a lot of times the easiest thing to do is to do the side of the pencil a little bit. And just barely do it, and then blend it. See how that's barely, it doesn't show any real mark making? A little bit of mark, that's fine. You can have a little bit of the mark. This is drawing, it's not photography, so it's okay. You just want it to be even. And so you're going to want to use the side of your pencil for that one. And it's going to take some time. And then you're going to really, do that. That's like number 2. It's a little dark, actually, because it's barely just a really light gray. So that's perfect, almost. And then I got to do 2 more through here. This one might need to be a tiny bit darker, and so as I work, I'm going to be comparing them to each other, squinting my eyes back and forth. There's white, middle gray, dark. I got to do 2 more steps before there, and then I got 1, 2, 3, 4 steps still, right? So I got to work my way through them, comparing back and forth, using that drawing that you've been doing already on your test page, and also the screen. I don't have it up because I want to show you on video, but I have the screen, the value posting, that's that picture. You want to use that in this, and then you want to take and compare them. If I have the screen, I can compare them up to the screen, hold it below the image on the screen, and squint my eyes and compare them back and forth and see what I need to change. So this is going to be your 10 value scale. You're going to do this carefully, neatly, and then you're going to turn it in. What's neatly look like with this? Well, look at how much extra charcoal I'm getting smudged around the page already, because I'm working with it. So at the end of it, you want to actually go in and erase the extra little bits and clean it up as much as possible, and keep it nice and crisp edges. That's why this is part of your lab time this week, because it takes time to do things like this well. And you think, oh, it's a waste of time, but it's not, because you're developing hand skill with the ruler. We're going to use that pretty soon with perspective drawing. And you're developing control with the pencil for tones, which is going to be really, really important for all of our drawing with charcoal and value. Okay, so that takes us through that. You're going to do 10 of those, and then I'm going to do the second part of this video. I'm going to show you the sphere and how to draw, do that copy of that sphere as a second video. Alright guys, take care.